Bought this motor off a dude who had it in a sand rail, and the turbo was in the front, or I guess the rear of the engine. I'll put some pictures up to show you what it looks like. And all I did was swap the intake ducts, and it fit pretty good with no modification. And now the turbo is sitting on top of the transaxle. So, using the old parts of the old header, I just have to piece together a couple pieces to connect the exhaust. Bought a bunch of U-bends, and I also bought some tubing. This is 1 5/8" 18 gauge tube. Alright, so here's what I got so far. I used my the J-tubes that I already had. I just threw them to the front 2 cylinders so it wraps around, using the original clamp that was already on the J-tube, and I just continued from that with my piping or tubing, and I put a little bend down here to clear the drive shaft, so it's going down and then coming up, and then I had to cut the flange and add that onto there. So the bottom 2 are done. There's what the left side looks like. And here's the right side. This one I had to add an extra bend up here to wrap around the transmission. It's coming along pretty good though. There's that. Alright, I'm working on the last section of my header, and I found out a pretty cool little method of finding what angles I need to cut. So bear with me, I'm going to try to explain it for anybody out there that might be trying to make their own headers. I know I couldn't really find any useful YouTube videos on it, so I'm going to throw one out there and maybe it'll help somebody out. So, on this last section of the header, you can see I had to come out and around the blow-off valve right there, and I did that just kind of by eyeballing where I wanted it, and I ended up using a bunch of scrap bends that I had left over from the rest of this thing. So right there is a little less than 90, and then that, I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I just kind of eyeballed it coming around. And when you get to something that starts being a little more critical, like you actually need to find out exactly what angles you want to get to, I got a little trick. Finally figured it out when I'm pretty much done with this thing. What I'm going to end up doing is bringing this to a angle that will be parallel to this guy, and then I'm going to, after I do that bend, then I'm going to come down to match it, because it's a little, I don't know if you can see, but it's a little higher. So to find that angle, what I do is I got this thing, an angle finder from, I think I picked it up from Lowe's. If you set that right on your tube, try to match it up, and loosen it up a little. But you set it right on your tube where you want the angle to be, and then you bend it to about where you want it. So I wanted to come parallel with that bottom tube. So right about there looks okay. Now I take this and I'm going to transfer it over to my little my jig I got over here. But something important, when you do this, make sure you're finding your angle at greater than 90 degrees. So you can see that's open more than 90. If I had done it like this, which is less than 90, it still looks good from up here. It's still finding the angle that I need. But if I take that over to my template, it's not going to work for me. So what I want to do is find the angle that I'm looking for at a greater than 90. So you flip it around to whatever way you need to. And then, so there's that. So that's going to be the bend that I want. Take it over here to my jig. I'm pretty sure I showed you how I made this earlier in the video. But so you set your U-bend in the jig at 0. So this line right here is going to be 0 degrees, and you make sure you marked it on your tube. And then of course it comes up to 90, and then there's 45. But I already got this thing cut, so so you set the angle finder on the jig in the center, and there you go. So what I got going on here is, let's move that. Okay, so it's at 0, and I made sure I marked that there and there on the U-bend, and you can see it's marked on the jig. And then I also got my 90 marked on the jig. So you take the angle finder and you center it right there on your cross. The cross should meet right in this at the center of the bend, and then that's where I need to make the cut. So I take a fine tip Sharpie and I mark it right there, and I mark it right there, and I take it over to the vise, cut it out with the Sawzall, and that's what I get. So that is the angle I was looking for. So it's a neat little trick. It works pretty good. I hope I explained it well enough. So just areas that's not too critical, I kind of just eyeball, and when it starts coming down to meeting the exhaust port on the head, your bends are going to need to be a little more precise. So that is a way of doing it. And so now that your U-bend's cut, any other measurement that you go to take, say I wanted to cut that same angle, all you would have to do is bring that back down to 0 and make sure you double check it with a straight edge. So that's back to 0, and now I could set my angle finder back up here, and there you go. Take a Sharpie, mark it, throw it on the clamp, and cut it out with the Sawzall. So that should be the exact same as what I already got. So just make sure every time you cut it, take it back down, and eventually there'll be nothing left. So I hope that helps somebody out. I got 8 more inches to go and I'm done with the whole header system. So Let me get back to it.